It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
It's the most exciting sport on earth as far as I'm concerned.
Take a walk through the Nitro pits as we go one-on-one with the stars of drag racing.
Hey, you're with Matt Hagan. This is Ron Capps, Matt Hagan's personal friend. You're on WFO.
Featuring the NHRA's Alan Reinhart.
Our events are truly an experience. They're not just a spectator event. They are an experience.
So get in, sit down, and hold on with host Joe Castello as he goes WFO.
Thanks, brother. Always love being on WFO, baby. Nobody brings it to you better than you, brother.
Now crank it up. It's time to go WFO. Here's your host, Joe Castello.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. I'm Joe Castello. I am your podcast host, and the WFO Radio podcast has been going for 10 years. That's right. We're in our 10th year here on WFO Radio. And I am super excited because we are getting ready for the Western Swing. Denver, Sonoma, Seattle. 3 races in a row that will ultimately show and demonstrate who is championship quality in the National Hot Rod Association. First up, the Dodge Mile High Nationals. It's going to be so fun. We're going to be out there. Hopefully you will be out there as well. On this show, we have a couple of guests, a couple of which will be running at the Dodge Nationals, and one that will not be. And I'm going to tell you about that one first, frankly, because I am blown away by this man. He is a force of nature. He is 87 years old. And of course, you know I mean Big Daddy Don Garlits. Garlits is going to try to break the record of 200 mile per hour with his electric dragster. That's happening in my community of South Florida in West Palm Beach. And Garlits announced he's doing it on the 20th. He's coming down into the community, and I can tell you everybody is buzzing about it. Of course, I am going to be in Denver. But I had to talk to Garlits, and Garlits is going to be on the show just minutes from now. He's going to talk about breaking the record. He's going to talk a little bit about Richard Hogan and how Richard Hogan came to him early on and how they got to work together. And now what he thinks about the Capco team doing so well. Garlits also going to talk about his thoughts on a return to 1,320 feet. You're not going to want to miss Big Daddy. To me, he is absolutely a force of nature. He never quits at 87 years old. He is such an inspiration to me and to everybody out there. Big Daddy Don Garlits going to be on the show, going to try to run 200 miles per hour in his electric dragster this weekend. Also on the show, Steve Matusek, pro mod racer turned pro stock racer with Elite Motorsports, will be running the 3-race Western Swing. Matusek going to be battling it out with the likes of Erica Enders and Greg Anderson and Jason Line, and all of them are going to be battling it out. Richard Freeman is going to be out there as well. It's going to be very interesting to see. So we're going to get his perspective on pro stock, but also pro modified, his thoughts on the recent rules update that dinged the turbo cars and the blower cars. Steve Matusek, he is an intellect when it comes to the sport of NHRA drag racing, and you are going to love hearing from Steve stepping into the Mellow Yellow Series. Always been one of his dreams. You're going to love hearing Steve Matusek, Big Daddy Don Garlits on this show. Also on the show, though, Randi Lyn Shipp. I have got a special announcement regarding WFO Radio. At the tail end of the show, in my time, we're going to speak with Randi Lyn. She'll be racing the Western Swing. I don't want to tell you exactly what it is, but I will tell you that Randi Lyn, we're going to announce something kind of cool here on WFO Radio NHRA Nitro, something for you to get if you want to represent WFO Radio when you're out there at the races, that kind of deal. You should be able to figure this out, people. You're very, very smart. So we got Big Daddy Don Garlits. We got Steve Matusek. We got Randi Lyn Shipp. We're going to have a whole lot of fun. At the very end of the show, during my time, after Randi Lyn, I'm going to kick out a couple of ideas because I've seen some things out there in social media and the Facebook articles. Bobby Bennett, Competition Plus, wrote a very interesting article about cutting the races back to 2 days. And I don't know that I agree with it, but I've got some ideas that I want to piggyback on top of it. And we'll talk about that in my time. My conversation about the 1320 last week spawned some emails. I will read those as well in the very tail end of the show, so you guys can, get up to speed on what I think about some of these very hot button issues that are going on in the world of NHRA drag racing right now. It really feels like there's a lot of change going on, a lot of things, a lot of concepts, a lot of ideas potentially being adopted. Why not some more? Let's throw some things out on the table. And I will talk about that. I was on another podcast earlier this week. I will tell you about that, all coming up. Alan Reinhart going to be on the show, but right now I want to tell you about the great sponsors of WFO Radio. We've been doing it for 10 years, and the folks at samtech.edu have been supporting us, and we really appreciate it. The School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed. Go to samtech.edu today. The most recent Factory Stock podcast is waiting for you. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Most importantly, though, it's so that you know that you can start a career in high-performance engine building, machining, motorsport EFI, CNC machining. They do it all at samtech.edu. And folks like Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and the Dragster Adventure. Frank and Lana Hawley doing such a great job for the sport, you might not understand that what they do is make the impossible possible. You can't get the experience of driving a dragster on a very tiny budget, except you can. Thanks to the Dragster Adventure. 130 miles per hour in the quarter mile, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. And you just show up. You don't have to bring anything except for yourself. They handle it all and they travel around the country. It's such a great program. 866-480-7223. And my buddy Marvin, RodakCoffeeandGrills.com. Marvin Rodak makes the best coffee out there. He's been a long-time supporter of WFO Radio, creates these great blends of coffee that are drag racing themed, whether it be Funny Car Chaos or the SPR Capco blend, the final round blend. He predicted the final round last week. Pretty amazing stuff. Plus, tips and tools and information. Go to RodakCoffeeandGrills.com. Learn how to be a true grill meister. He's located in Fort Worth, Texas. 817-924-6821. That's RodakCoffeeandGrills.com. Speaking of Scott Palmer, Magic Dry, US.com. Scott Palmer is moving in the right direction. They got to the final round of the last race. I know they're super excited about running up on the mountain. Magic Dry is excited as well. And then, of course, headed to the Cat Spot Northwest Nationals. 833-221-2257. If you want one of the Magic Dry spill kits, if you've got a shop, if you've got an automotive shop, if you work in a factory, if you work in places where large industrial spills happen, Magic Dry is for you. If you've got a little kitty cat and it's one little tiny cat and he's running around your house, then definitely Cat Spot litter is what you want. And finally, HusseyPerformance.net. Quality copper head gaskets used by champions. David Allen and the team putting together custom stuff if you need it, and they probably have it already. Go to HusseyPerformance.net. Doing a great job, David Allen and the team, on Sean Bellemure's world champion, Hussey Performance, Bartone Brothers, Top Alcohol Funny Car. Plus, Drag Racing Edge Magazine, Johnny D putting out a new episode very recently. We got to get Johnny D on the show. EV3 Drag Racing, and Hankstafers.com, Hankstafers Metalworking Lubricants, all supporting WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. Congratulations to Matt Sackman on another victory out there at Route 66. Matt Sackman, this kid is the future of drag racing, baby. We need to see him at Top Fuel ASAP, right? Right. All right, on with the show. Joining us now, he'll be calling the action out there on the Western Swing. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, is back on WFO Radio. Alan, welcome back.
Hey, Joe, great to be back. But you need to, I don't know what you just said Western Swing. Wasn't Gainesville just like 2 weeks ago? It can't possibly be Western Swing. You want to double check that?
Yeah, I agree with you. The Western Swing, Brainerd, Indy, countdown, finals, it's over. It's amazing how this happens. You used to tell me this when we were doing the satellite radio show back in the day, and I would, be in one location and you'd travel around and I'd connect and you'd try to explain and I could not relate. Like, what do you mean? The year goes on. And it's just so crazy to be involved and have it happen where it did feel like Gainesville was just the other day. And we were at Houston and then Charlotte 4 wide. And now it's the Western Swing, which will be over in 3 weeks, just like that Brainerd and Indy countdown time.
Yeah, it's crazy the way it flies by, but boy, it's been a wildly exciting and entertaining year, at least so far, and I don't think there's a whole lot of chance of that slowing down.
No, definitely not. In fact, it's going to ramp up as we start looking at point standings and think about the people who are in various positions and what it means to them to the overall championship, which is race wins and the championship. The U.S. Nationals, those are the things that matter, right? Who wins a bunch of races, who wins Indy, who wins the championship, and the jockeying for position. Now, sweeping the swing. There's a thing that people are, focused on, and I can't imagine that Steve Torrence and these Capco guys wouldn't love to have sweeping the swing on their resume of this, couple of year run of dominance.
Yeah, absolutely, they would, no question about it. The one thing, though, and I honestly don't remember this off the top of my head, so if I'm wrong, correct me, but I don't believe Steve Torrence has ever been tremendously successful in Denver, has he?
I don't recall. I will go look. We have the technology. I mean,
yeah, and I don't have it right in front of me, or I would have looked it up. Like if we'd have talked about this, if I'd thought about it before we got on the air, I would have done some research. But Denver is really the difficult one. A lot of guys have data for sea level tracks in both San Francisco and Seattle, or Sears Point in Seattle are fairly close to sea level, and even though it can be warm in Sonoma, Denver is the one that is really difficult, and that's why you and I have had the conversation 100 times, and every time somebody asks me, you have a favorite racetrack, Vandermeer. And one of the big reasons is because it's really difficult to win there. If you go to Denver and win, you deserve to win. And, that's obviously the one. I think that's the most difficult of the three to win.
I can tell you that last year it was Leah. The year before it was Antron. The year before it was Tony Schumacher. And so 2016 it was Tony Schumacher. And so at very least, I'm noticing a Don Schumacher Racing Top Fuel trend. Maybe this is a place.
How bad do they need one?
Exactly. Maybe that's what we just uncovered, that this is the Get Well race for Don Schumacher Racing's Top Fuel program. Here it is.
Can you imagine?
2015, Steve Torrence.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
2015, Steve Torrence won Top Fuel at Vandermeer.
Did he? All right. So we'll give him that 4 years ago. Can you imagine standing in the winner's circle last year in Seattle going, yep, it's going to be a year before the Don Schumacher team wins again in Top Fuel?
No.
You think anybody would have taken that bet?
A lot of people would have taken the action on that one.
Everybody I know, including me.
It's shocking. And I had a conversation with Don in Norwalk in the media center, just a quick, hey, how you doing? And we started talking about various things. And, Don brings up stuff. He's not like at least in my conversation with him, not like a very secretive guy, or he'll tell you exactly what's up. He's like, I'm not happy. And he's happy about the funny cars and all, but he's not he's happy about what's going on with Tasca, but he's not happy. And what does one do when, as you often say, every resource is available? The brain power is through the roof. They've got machine shops. They've got chassis shops. They got some of the best drivers, and they're just struggling.
But, that's two things, I think. One, that shows you that this really isn't easy. And no matter what Steve Torrence is making it look like right now, no matter what Tony Schumacher made it look like a few years ago, and, there have been a few guys that get on ring runs, Antron for a couple of years, but it really isn't easy to do. And, what you just said about Don, I think is spot on, that, he is very successful, and the reason he's successful is because he hires the right people, and he gives them all the tools that they need to succeed, and then he doesn't want to hear an excuse. If you tell the guy, okay, you want me to build you a bridge, I need concrete, and I need this, and I need this, and he's going to give it all to you, but you damn sure better get a bridge built. And, he's got to be frustrated with his Top Fuel teams right now for exactly that reason, because they have everything they need to be successful, and yet they're not getting the results. And it's not easy. And then, believe me, if you could wave a wand and make it happen, they would. If there was, one thing, if only we had this, then they'd have it, and they do already have it. So, you just keep beating on it and hope that it comes back around your way.
And they are also the kind of team that could, figure out how to sweep the swing. They could figure out how to win the countdown, win Indy, derail Capco. That could happen also, but until it happens, it hasn't happened.
Anybody that's got a Top Fuel car that's running for the championship out there right now, the number one thing on the top of their to-do list is derail Capco. And so far, Mike Salinas has had some success, but it's kind of interesting to me. And I've never second guessed Alan Johnson. I've known him so many years, and I've seen him pull off just amazing feats. And the guy's very confident in his abilities, and rightfully so. He's got the results to back it up. But, I think you learn something every time you run the car. And I think when they're sitting out some of these races, and again, I understand the economics of it. I understand the business side of it. I get all of that. But I think that every time Steve Torrence goes out there and wins another race, they're learning something that you had the chance to learn and didn't. And I think that's just going to make them a little bit more difficult to catch.
Absolutely. And when you're, whatever you are, when you're a pro, you get into a groove. You start to groove. And when you stop the groove, everything stops, and you don't know if you're going to get it back again. And so, like Mike Salinas, let's face it, when we think about the championship, Steve Torrence is in a world by himself, and, maybe Doug Coletta or Antron is going to get on a run, but Alan Johnson is the guy with the rep that could maybe, do something, but they have skipped these races. And so how is that going to affect them? Maybe not at all, maybe a lot. We just don't know.
And I really think, you mentioned Mike Salinas, and I have all the respect in the world for Mike. This isn't meant to sound like I'm bad-mouthing him, but I think the reps for him might be even more important than the reps for AJ. When you're out there, and you just said it, you get in a groove and you get it, and you just keep riding the wave because you know it's going to stop at some point. You don't want to be the one to stop it. When you've got a car that's good, you're running good, you're doing good, you're driving good, I would be loath to take time away from that, because what if it takes you 2 races to get back in the groove again, and then you're going to be a little bit behind?
Exactly. Well, looking at the point standings, Steve is in his own atmosphere at the top, and all those points are going away. He's got 1,278. Doug Coletta is second with 799. It's really just insane what kind of dominance we have seen. But then Antron, Brittany, Mike Salinas, Clay Milliken, Leah, who had to miss the most recent race, but will be back out there for the Dodge Nationals as her, big primary sponsor. Richie Crampton, Terry McMillan, and Scott Palmer rounding out the top 10. The big battle, really, Scott Palmer, Austin Prock, Terry McMillan for 10th. We don't really know what's going to happen with Billy, whether or not that expanded schedule is going to happen and whether or not he's going to get in. But they have been running well enough that they could if they do. But there's your top 10 battle, 12 drivers for 10 positions. But, which of those teams that I just listed have a really legit chance to unseat the reigning champ? Maybe Coletta Motorsports, maybe Antron Brown if they hit on what they're doing. Grubnick doesn't seem to have figured out Brittany's car that much just yet, that they're going to go on a 6-race run. Even with a little bad luck for Steve, I'm not seeing it.
Well, obviously we're all going to watch it unfold. I think that Brittany's team has certainly been showing some signs of promise. Mike Salinas and I never bet against Alan Johnson. I don't, and even though I just said, that sitting out races I think could come back to bite him a little bit, but we've still seen him pull off some absolute miracles. At this point, the Colettas need to show me a little bit more consistency with both of their cars, and I don't think that I'm telling you anything that they wouldn't say. One of the things that really stuns me is Austin Prock. I'm very surprised that car isn't solidly in the top 10, or at least, looking. That car has not looked as good as I expected it to. When they came out and then, brought Mike Green over, and it's like, okay, they've got all the things in place now. I'm not saying to make a championship run, but at least to have a good competitive Sunday car. But they've struggled a little bit in qualifying, and it's bit them in the early rounds. Come Sunday for the last couple of races. That's something they really need to get over, and they need to get over it quick.
Yes, absolutely. And when you run Torrence in the first round, that definitely makes your challenge even more difficult. But we will see. And this is I have figured out how to bring parity to the class, though, Alan. I have the solution.
Okay.
Ban Capco. And then all of a sudden you got just 200 points between first and 10th. It's like throw a blanket over everybody else if you take Steve out of the mix, because it's a very close field without the Capco boys.
Okay. But if Steve Torrence were to say, if Steve Torrence gets outlawed tomorrow, okay, no more Steve Torrence, and you win the championship, how do you feel about that?
Oh, yeah, it's totally hollow. It's obviously, I'm kidding, but yeah, totally hollow because you're beating a bunch of people who can't beat this guy who is the best, and everybody says it. You want to be the man, you got to beat the man. Woo!
And everybody out there wants to be the one to derail the Capco train. So that's part of what's making it fun to watch, but that's also part of what's fueling Capco's success. You know, they're winning a lot of intimidation rounds. They've got a good car, no question about it. But they're pushing other people out of their comfort zone like everybody has when they get on a string like that. And it's forcing the other teams to make mistakes against them from time to time that I don't think they would make if it was somebody other than Torrence in the other lane.
Couple of notes. We've got Big Daddy on the show this week because he's trying to set a record with his electric dragster, and it's happening in Palm Beach. We'll be out there in Denver, but I love connecting with Garlits because, to me, he's a force of nature and an amazing person and an inspiration at 87 years old that he, continues to set goals and try to accomplish them for himself. But while I had him on, and people will hear that coming up, I couldn't help but ask him about a couple of things, right? This big return to quarter mile that's being discussed, his opinion, and Richard Hogan. And, Hoagie's got his little ritual that he does. He calls Garlits from the winner's circle all the time. And the idea that Garlits is still, in many ways, directly relevant to the team that is dominating because Hogan is spawn of Garlits, which we've spoken about in the bit. And so Garlits is going to talk a little bit about Richard Hogan and what he said, because he gave those guys a big tour of the museum earlier this year when we were down in Gainesville, which you referenced, was that their maintenance regimen is the secret to it all, that they maintain that car like few other do. And what does that mean? We talked about parts. We talked about the model. I guess they're all connected to that. You buy new stuff like we talked about last week. You maintain the heck out of it. And the second it gets a little worn, you get something new. Like your automotive analogy, it was very interesting to hear Garlits reaffirm it just 1 week later.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. I'd want to hear what the man has to say as well. But I don't know. I mean, that certainly is part of their success. But believe me, Kalita Motorsports is not running wore-out parts. John Force Racing's not running wore-out parts. The Schumacher team's not running wore-out parts. Is that something that's helping drive Capco? Absolutely. But do I think that, Doug Kalita would be better if only they put a new set of heads on it every once in a while? Not a chance. That car wants for absolutely nothing. So I don't know that I can contribute everything to that. That certainly plays a little bit into it. And just for those who are listening who may not be aware, the connection between Richard Hogan and Don Garlits goes back to when Don Garlits was a very young man getting into the sport, and the guy that he could never beat was Richard Hogan's dad. And so then Richard went to work for them, and they literally have close to a lifelong connection. And, Don's Lifetime Achievement Award that he was presented with last year at the banquet, he spoke glowingly about Richard Hogan, where he came from, what he learned, how he was just always, quiet and paying attention and picking up on things. And now that's paying off. But I think it's just an interesting connection that Richard Hogan's dad was the guy Don Garlits could never beat when he was a young man.
So cool. It is a very, very cool deal. And Big Daddy going for that 200-mile-per-hour record. Going to be very interesting. Quick thought on the ESPYs. We put a lot into that. Steve Torrence, I really believed that Steve Torrence deserved to win the ESPY award, which we know, let's face it, I've been saying it the whole time. Not that I was half-hearted in any of my promotion of it. We voted, we promoted, we did everything we could, but it's a popularity contest on, ESPN, which is not our network anymore. So I was a little skeptical deep down, like, all right, we going to win this thing? But honestly, I thought that if anyone was going to win it, it was going to be Lewis Hamilton, who has just really deserved the accolade, all accolades. The guy has been incredible. He's winning everything just like Steve. He's dominating just like Steve on a larger, more expensive stage. So I figured they would give it to the broadcast that they air. Nope, Kyle Busch wins it. He's not even the champ. Just goes to show you, name recognition really, really drives that thing.
Well, I think also, in the United States, Formula One isn't that big a deal. And worldwide, you go to Brazil, you go to Argentina, you go, Australia, you go Dubai. Man, Formula One is just the most amazing thing in the world. But in the United States, it's not, because this country has a tendency to pay attention more to things that happen in this country. And if Formula One's going to come here once a year, it's almost like the circus coming to town, whereas NASCAR races 36 times a year, NHRA races 24 times a year, and Americans, I think, tend to focus more on that. I agree with you. Lewis Hamilton is having just an absolutely incredible run. I'm not a Formula One guy by any means, and even I know what he's been doing here as of late in the last year. So, but the NASCAR guys in the United States are always going to have an advantage over pretty much everybody else for exactly what you just said. It's a popularity contest.
Popularity contest, regardless, though. I'm not taking anything away from Kyle Busch, but it was nice to see the whole drag racing community rally around Steve and his accomplishment. Drivers that even were, beaten by Steve. That's something cool. The sweep of the countdown was a big deal, and certainly, we all voted. We did our best. I'd love to know what the numbers, though. Too bad we don't get to know that stuff. I'd love to know, how it turned out.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever going to let that cat out of the bag.
No, definitely not. All right, let's move over to Funny Car, where interesting situation. The Sean Langdon Cruz Pedregon dust up of the last race was fun and interesting. Kind of seemed a little bit out of nowhere. Sean, tweeting out, we always encourage the drivers to be vocal. He was vocal, and he got called out by another driver, which is good. That's vocal. But in the end, Sean gets the last laugh because he goes to the final round and really increases the gap between himself and Cruz, who are really the drivers in contention for that spot. Let's face it. I mean, Wilk is battling. Hagan is back there, 8th, 9th, 10th. But Cruz, 168 points behind. It can happen, but if it's going to, the cruiser had better do something right now.
You're exactly right. He needs to get on a run, and not next week, but this week. Can he do it? He's got Nick Castello over there now, which is another pretty sharp guy and another good set of eyes. He keeps saying, "Man, we're this close, we're this close, we're this close." If they can find whatever this much we're missing is, we've seen him certainly go on runs before historically, but you just got to have all the ingredients in place. Personally, I hope Cruz does get on a little bit of a run, because I would like to see it mean something when he and Sean go head to head. And I'm not pulling for either one of them. I don't care who gets the spot. Whoever does, they're going to earn it. But if you're racing me and I'm 400 points behind you, nobody cares that we don't like each other.
Nope.
If you're racing me and I'm 20 points behind you, all of a sudden, all the fans are really interested and really excited about this. And by the way, how'd you get 400 points in front of me, you cheater?
That's what I do, man. I do. I got all kinds of illegal parts on my stuff. Hey, Cruz was talking about burning pistons, though, and I'm wondering, since you do Nitro School every week, I am wondering about that because, the parts, like the hard parts, the blocks and the heads and all of those things are, I don't want to call them spec, but similar. And why would one guy have a problem with burning pistons all the time? Like the oiling system on these cars, isn't that something that's pretty much figured out at this point? Seeing as all the cross-pollination of crew chiefs and crew members and parts and pieces, Cruz made a big deal about his burning pistons problem. Why would one guy have
burning pistons or scuffing pistons?
Scuffing pistons, excuse me.
Scuffing pistons.
Pistons.
Scuffing pistons, as a general rule, is one of two things. It's either an oiling problem or the engine's lean and it's running hotter than it should. And a number of the teams have found out, and, if you've got a sharp eye as a fan, you may have noticed more and more fuel coming out of the headers when the cars are idling on the starting line, when they're doing their burnouts, when they're going through that routine. And that's because teams determined that when the engine was lean on the burnout, it would scuff the pistons in the burnout. Now, it may go ahead and still make the run and not necessarily hurt anything, but you'd get back and find out the pistons were scuffed. And so they started putting more fuel into the engines on the burnout to solve that problem. I'm sure that's something that Cruz has looked at. I mean, he's been around long enough and he's smart enough to know, when and where and why. But as a general rule, if you're scuffing pistons, you either have an oil issue or you've got a little bit of a fuel curve tune-up issue.
Interesting. Well, very good. And I found that to be interesting. I got the professor at Nitro School here. Why wouldn't I ask? John Force, the site of his most recent win. Here we go, 150. I tried a trick last race. I didn't mention it. I just let it go, figuring that might be what put him over the top, and it did not. Maybe on the mountain where he has had success.
Well, time will tell, I guess. The different crew and different crew chief than what he had when he won last year. But the fact that it's been a calendar year since he's won, I'm really surprised that he hasn't won a race yet this year. But I also think, and we've talked about it on the show, I think part of the reason he hasn't won a race this year is him personally, because he's had a really good race car, but there have been a couple of times when it sure looked to me like he's given up lane choice when he didn't necessarily need to, or had some kind of a miscue or an issue on the starting line. He needs to get all of that stuff behind him and just go back to driving the race car like he drove it when he was winning all those races and championships.
And John Force Racing has had some significant dominance the past couple of years. He, Robert Height, and he, going back to 2016, have owned this race, and so they seem to have a tune-up that works up there. Pro Stock is back. I'm very happy about that. And Pro Stock is there with us for the rest of the way, right? Yes?
Yep.
That's good. And Steve,
it's going to be fun having them full time on the road again. And for those of you fans that are coming out to the racetrack at selected events, we are going to start a Pro Stock school. It'll take place on Friday, and it's going to kind of rotate back and forth. We'll have Pro Stocks at some races, Pro Mod at some races, Pro Stock Motorcycle at some races. But we are expanding the curriculum of the schools for those of you who are interested in learning more about how the different cars or different machines work.
Well, I think that is great, and I wish I could attend them all. But there are fans that ask me throughout the day, like, where's this school? When's it happening? So there's certainly people that are interested in how it all works and how it all goes down. Pro Stock School back, Steve Matusek going to be running in an Elite Mustang, in the Elite Mustang, so I'm very interested to see him out there. Richard Freeman going to be racing a car as well. The Quadra family, we're going to have 3 Quadras out there, so it's going to be fun to have Pro Stock for the rest of the ride.
Yep, it's just not quite the same without him, and I understand exactly the decision-making process, why it had to happen, and the fact that the vast majority of the racers in Pro Stock are for it. But I like Pro Stock. We've talked about it 100 times. My background in the sport and the time I've spent working on it and living in that world, I really enjoy when the Pro Stockers are there. I'm looking forward to seeing them back on the mountain, because it really ain't easy to win up there when you're down as much horsepower with the pros as you are when you're driving a Pro Stock car.
Pro Stock bikes, of course, and looking at the point standings, Roger Brogdon holding on to that 10th spot, and you got Kenny Delco back a little bit, Fernando Quadra back a little bit. It's going to be interesting, but I think Roger's got the best car of the guys that are back there, and it will be interesting to see. I also saw Chris McGahe's son is getting ready to start getting his feet wet in Pro Stock as well, so it looks like we got more cars coming. And Pro Stock Motorcycle up on the mountain, that's always interesting.
It's not easy to win up there, especially with a naturally aspirated car. They are giving up so much power. We've seen correction factors up there of 1.35, 1.39. And to put that in layman's terms, if your engine makes 1,000 horsepower at sea level, if the correction factor is 1.35, it's making about 650 up there on the mountain, and trying to win when you're down on power that much. And everybody's down on power. But what you've got to do now is find the most efficient way to use the power that you still have, and that's where the science and the magic comes in. And it's also interesting to watch the drivers, because they change gear ratios. For a driver, sometimes it takes a couple of runs for the driver to get acclimated. You're ripping the shifter so much quicker than you are at a sea-level track, and it's just a very, very different animal to drive. Probably Steve Matusek has a bit of an advantage, because he doesn't have a long-term routine for driving a Pro Stock car. So in Denver, he just has to figure out that this is normal and have at it.
There you have it. Very exciting. And, of course, the Golden Block Party, the way it all starts off Thursday night out there in Golden, and music and cars and Mopar and just so many great things going on. I'm very excited. Can't wait to get rolling.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I want to touch one more thing before we sign off the air. Was Ben Wenzel winning stock in Chicago this past weekend at the Lucas Oil Regional race up there?
Yes.
And I just think that's awesome. The fact that it's the same guy and the same car that won the 1967 U.S. Nationals and became the first Camaro to ever win an NHRA event. Same car driven by the same guy, still winning. 52 years later, and I think that's pretty cool. There were 92 stock eliminator cars in Chicago, and he was the last man standing.
Amazing. No, and a wonderful guy, too. Very, very nice person, wonderful guy. Cool car. A couple years back, did the big feature with him and Erica and the Copo out on the track at the U.S. Nationals, and he goes out there and picks up a win. That is tremendous. And you were out there at Woodburn. Anything to report?
It was another great weekend. You know, the family that owns the track, the Severances and the Livingstons, do a tremendous job out there. We had 3 days of amazing weather. I think the high temperature the whole time I was there was about 82. You know, when I'm leaving Arizona at 106 and I'm putting a jacket on to go to the racetrack in the morning, is kind of cool. But as usual, a great event. The Division 6 guys kind of ran rampant up there, and that includes Sean Cowie winning again, beating Joey Severance in the final round of the alcohol dragster. So, you know, he's got championship on his mind.
There you have it. Alan, great job. I'll see you in Denver.
All right, Joe. Travel safe.
There he goes, the voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhart joins us each week right here on WFO Radio Podcast, NHRA Nitro. We had a great ignition show this week. We talked about the debacle that is the Haas F1 Rich Energy sponsorship. We delved into a whole lot of stuff. The Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch battles. We talked sports collision. We were all over it. And, of course, NHRA drag racing is a big, big part of WFO Radio Ignition and NHRA Nitro as well, both available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or WFOradio.com. And the Alan Reinhart segment, to me, is one of the most fun and informative segments out there because Alan does such a great job, whether we're talking about scuffing pistons or whether we're talking about shifting gears in a pro stock car out there. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens on the Western Swing. Who can step up? Can anyone step up and make the story about them other than who we have seen, Steve Torrence? And I wonder, you know, sweeping the swing, that's a historic thing. Few have done. Steve Torrence wants to get in on that. Now I'll talk a little bit about the ESPYs as well. Don't feel bad about the ESPYs, folks. That was a Hail Mary from jump. Simple as that. But I really respect the way everybody in the NHRA got on board with one of our own, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? You rally around the family. Pocket full of shells. Steve Torrence. I don't know if he came in second or he came in fourth, but I'm still proud of what everybody did. All right, what's going to happen is Big Daddy Don Garlits is going to be next on the show. And I thought about it. It's like, Garlits isn't even racing this weekend. Steve Matusek is our featured guest. But Garlits, I bet if I asked Steve, like, Steve, can I put Garlits before you on the show? I bet you Steve Matusek would say, yeah, it's Garlits. And that's how I made this decision. Garlits is going to be up next. Going to talk a little bit about his thoughts on what's going on with Steve Torrence, what's going on with 1320. Most importantly, how on earth this man at 87 years old stays determined to go out there and accomplish and break records. He is Big Daddy. And he is on the show next. But right now, I want to tell you about Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and the Dragster Adventure. I started to mention a little bit earlier, and I want you to understand, drag racing needs to grow. Drag racing can only grow if people start to understand why we're all having such a good time. The only way to truly understand why we're all having such a good time is to get in a car yourself. But how do you do that? You go to the track, you walk up to a stranger, hey, can I rent your car for a day? I don't think so. Frank Hawley has got a better way, and it's called the Dragster Adventure. 130 miles per hour in the quarter mile, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. You just show up and you go on the Dragster Adventure. But you don't really even have to go anywhere. They go to you. Maple Grove has got races left. Auto Club Dragway's got races left. Gainesville 2020. It's not too early to start thinking about that. That is a great Christmas gift, folks. Gainesville 2020. Why would you not want to go to Gainesville 2020 on March 27th and be a part of the Dragster Adventure? Go to the website, frankhawley.com, or give them a call, 866-480-7223. That's 866-480-7223, frankhawley.com. It is the Dragster Adventure, and tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. It makes a great gift. And maybe you want to get your license. You can do that too and become a drag racer. Start hitting the divisionals. Next thing you know, you might be out there racing against Steve Matusek or Randi Lyn Shipp or who knows. All right, Big Daddy coming up next.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, Joe here, and I hereby decree on behalf of the WFO universe, the summer is here, and that means it's time to grill. Get yourself some Rodax Coffee and Grills.com, barbecue, spice rub, hot sauce, and of course, incredible coffee. They've got the WFO radio blend, they've got the Bang the Blower, they've got the exotics. It's all roasted fresh per your order, representing the top 5% of coffee throughout the world. Go to RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com or give Marvin a call. 817-924-6821 or RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com.
Start your education at full speed with the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Accelerate your career as a high-performance engine builder with classroom instruction and practical hands-on experience in the lab, on the dyno, and at the track. In addition to the blockhead and CNC programs, SAM now offers motorsport, EFI tuning, and an Associates of Applied Science degree. And SAM is a military-friendly school, approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Start your education at full speed. Go to samtech.edu today.
Hussey Performance copper head gaskets. Do you make big power? That's the question. Hussey Performance specializes in quality copper gaskets to your exact specs. Any bore, any size and thickness. From 500 cubic inch nitro burning Hemis to turbocharged Pro Mods to Honda engines or even big tractors, Hussey Performance makes the gaskets. If you're a racer, you're thinking about, well, how long does this take? Typically less than a week. They want to help you make the race. Next day shipping is also available. What to do? You got to call David directly, 724-318-8292, or go to husseyperformance.net. And one more thing, it's all made in America, including the machines they use. That is huge. 724-318-8292, Hussey Performance, copper head gaskets for you engine builders out there. These guys are supporting WFO. Check them out. It is husseyperformance.net.
Subscribe to WFO Radio on iTunes. Never miss a show. And don't forget to write a review. WFO.
Now, back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
Welcome back to NHRA Nitro Podcast. Joe Castello at WFO Joe. That is my Twitter handle. You can follow me on Instagram as well. At WFO Radio is the social media for WFO on Twitter, and of course our Facebook page is always rocking. We're always posting the shows and retweeting a lot of other stuff, and every once in a while getting into it. At the tail end of the show, I'll talk a little bit about some of my concepts and ideas, and people bantering about a lot of different concepts and ideas of the sport of drag racing. I am certainly open to all. I want to discuss them. I want to know about them. I also have my opinions, though. And I'm going to throw a couple out today. Why not? And read some emails from the WFO radio listeners at the tail end of the show. Right now, though, I want to tell you about MagicDryUS.com. MagicDryUS.com. Pick up a computer or a device and go to a browser and check out MagicDryUS.com, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Made in the USA. It's the official organic absorbent of the National Hot Rod Association, and it is available if you've got a shop, if you've got a factory, if you're a teeny little company or a big giant company. They can make spill kits for you, 5 gallons, 10 gallons, 20 gallons, 50 gallons. And why would you do this, right? Instead of just going to get the standard clay kitty litter, because it works better. Doing it the way you've always done it may not produce the best results. Maybe you need something new, better. This absorbs 560% of its weight in liquid. That's more per pound than anything on the market. It handles any viscosity of liquid. And it's made out of coconut, which is all natural and organic. 833-221-2257. That's 833-221-2257 for MagicDryUS.com. They're keeping Scott Palmer on the track. They're keeping WFO on the air. And they're keeping oil off of the track out there at the NHRA. I think they're doing a great job, and I love the fact that they have dived into the sport so well. And don't forget, if you've got a kitty cat, cat spot litter is the way to do it. If you got a kitty cat, cat spot litter, the way to do it. And Scott Palmer, been running very, very well. MagicDryUS.com. Check them out. All right, as we get ready for the NHRA Western Swing, one of the legends of NHRA drag racing is getting ready for a record attempt in Florida. He joins us now, Big Daddy Don Garlits. Don, you're going for the record one more time. You'll be at Palm Beach International Raceway trying to break 200 miles per hour on July 20th with your electric dragster. Tell me about it.
Well, we've been on this project almost 5 years, and we've got up to 185.60 in 7.05 seconds, and that was with a rehashed over top fuel car converted to electric. And so now we built a special car just for the electric motors, and it comes in much lighter. It's 1,500 pounds going to the line versus a 2,300 pound car before. So I have some high hopes for this car. We did one test run and it went 182.3, but it was real squirrely on the top end. It wasn't getting traction. And we since came back and we put a mono wing system on the car with a wing that should hold the car down at speed. So I think that with those modifications, we should be able to go through the 200-mile-an-hour barrier.
You got a major write-up in the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, which is the Fort Lauderdale area paper. I can tell you the people from the local community here in South Florida are very excited. I know you raced at Miami Hollywood Speedway for many years, and to set a record in your home state in South Florida, given how much you have put into this, what would that mean?
Oh, it'd be exciting. And, of course, being I was the first officially over 200 on a piston engine, it'd be nice to do it with an electric motor, too.
Why has this been your the challenge you have chosen to adopt? There are so many things you could be doing. You could just sit back and work on your classics. Why has this captured you so much?
Well, I always did like to go fast. I don't particularly need to go 300 miles an hour, but, the 180s to 200, that's nice. That's an exciting ride. It's a lot safer than 300 miles an hour. Of course, if there's some kind of a failure, you can stop one of these cars in a normal drag strip. The big cars that go 300 miles an hour, if you have any problems, you just can't hardly do anything with it. Plus, it got so expensive. Up into the $20,000s of dollars to make a run. And this car is very inexpensive to operate. And I think it would open up a whole new venue for people who would like to race and go 200 miles an hour, but don't have the money to buy these expensive cars and maintain them.
At 87 years old, the idea that you are still pushing yourself to do things, break barriers, I think is a great example for those of us who are coming after you to know that life, doesn't end when you're 75 or 80 years old. Do you find that people are coming up to you telling you that you're an inspiration to them?
I sure do. And I tell them, that there's so much you can do. The big trick is don't sit down in front of the TV and give up. Keep working. But see, a lot of people don't like to work. I love to work. I come to work every day. I'm here at my shop in the morning just like I was 40 years old. And it is fun. And when you do something that's fun, let me tell you, you can stay with it.
Tell me about the specs of the car. The motor, is this the same motor? The chassis is lighter. What about the driveline? Is it the same as the previous attempt, or have you made an upgrade to the battery, to the motor?
Well, the batteries are a much upgrade. This is where a lot of the weight savings came. The old batteries were around 700 pounds. The new batteries, 240 pounds, and it's more powerful than the old ones. We got one electric motor, 1,250 horse, and it drives directly into a solid axle with a ratio of about 2.5 to 1. And with the torque of these motors, you don't have to have any clutches or anything. It's just sitting there inert, and you step on it just like an electric golf cart, and away you go.
The 60-foot time with all that torque, the instant torque, it has to be an amazing feeling, maybe not quite of a top fuel dragster, but it has to be intense.
Yeah, so far my 60-foot has been 1.0 seconds. Fuel dragster will run 0.81. But I think this one will go down into the nines, like a 0.9 something, because the new car, with what we found on just that one test run, we made some gearing changes and different stuff. It's going to be very quick off the line.
Now, you're going to be at Palm Beach, a track formerly Moroso Motorsports Park, now Palm Beach International Raceway. I know many of the locals are going to go out there to see it. Do you have times scheduled for when you're going to make these attempts?
So we won't be arriving at the track till sometime after lunch, and then we'll prepare everything, and we'll make it probably just a little shakedown squirt sometime around 3 o'clock, something like that. And then after that, we'll come back and get on with trying to do the record. I'd like to get it all done before dark because, it's just a strange car, and I would prefer to run in the daylight.
Of course. Very exciting. I hope you make it. I want you to do it. We all want Big Daddy to go out there and continue his great career. I have to ask you, though, about Richard Hogan, who has been dominant as a crew chief for Steve Torrence. He shares with me, after all of these wins that they're having, that one of his personal traditions that he loves to do is call you after race wins and get your thoughts. What has it been like for you to have one of your guys, a guy that rode across the road with you, go on and have such great success with the Torrence and Capco team? They're at the top of the sport that you pioneered so many things.
Oh, I tell you, I just love it. Richard is the son of Charles Hogan, which was the King Hogan when I was just a kid. He was the guy that beat everybody. And he was everybody looked up to him. And, this one, it came right off of street racing. And he won the first top eliminators here in Florida when they actually started giving away trophies. And his son, Richard, walked into my shop in the 70s just wanting a job. And I said, there's floors to sweep. And he just grabbed a broom and went to work. And so my crew chief, about a year later, said if he couldn't take his girlfriend on the road, he wasn't going to go. I says, well, you're not going to go. Richard, come over here. You're the new crew chief. And we went right to Dragway 42 and won the first big NHRA race. And he is an inspiration. He's one of the smartest guys I know in drag racing. And he does know how to keep one of those Hemis together.
They say that, and when I say they, I mean the Capco team, that one of their highlights of the season was coming and receiving the Big Daddy tour at the museum with Richard and Bobby Lagana and those guys. They learned a lot from the experience. Obviously, the reverence of being with Garlits. What do you think of what they are doing?
Well, I take my hat off to it. It's amazing that they can have one of those engines making so much power and come back and run it run after run. But he's got a tremendous maintenance program. They're very strict about how they run the parts and everything, and that's the key to it all.
Now, you're going for this record at a quarter of a mile. Years ago, you were one of the first people to mention 1,000 foot to me in your museum after the Gator Nationals, and then it happened a few years later. There have been some rumors that NHRA is considering a return to 1320. Have you, at some races, if the conditions are correct, etc., have you heard those rumors, and do you have an opinion?
I've heard the rumors, and my personal opinion is we should return to quarter-mile racing for everybody because the race is over too quick for the 1,000 foot for the spectators. But there would have to be tremendous changes made in the cars, in the engine combination, so that these cars wouldn't be going so fast. I'd like to see quarter-mile racing and just barely nip over the 300-mile-an-hour mark. And that means you could run any track in the United States at quarter mile with a top fuel dragster. And then every time the speed picked up a little bit, NHRA would just orchestrate some little changes. It would all basically run to do with the fuel pump and the air pump. They control those two items. They can make the cars go any speed they want.
Now, the future of a top fuel dragster, old technology that we love, versus an electric dragster, which is new technology that we are just learning about. Do you see a place for electric dragsters in NHRA? Do you think competition eliminator or a category like that should be opened up to cars like you're playing around with now?
Oh, yeah. If we get enough people with them, in other words, I can get the groundwork done here and get a nice usable model going that's reliable, more people would want to have them. It would open up a nice class that was inexpensive, just an electric drag racing class. It'll never replace Top Fuel or the blown alcohol cars. You know, they're really fun to watch and noisy. This car is real quiet. And in fact, I call it the quiet one, but it definitely has a place in racing.
Very exciting. Big, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're getting ready to attempt a world record to become the first electric dragster over 200 miles per hour, bookending an incredible career. Thank you for, answering a couple of questions about the sport as well. When are you heading down from Ocala to Palm Beach?
We're going to leave early Saturday morning.
Very exciting, very old school, and I wish you the greatest of luck. I know we'll be all watching the internet from Denver out there at the Dodge Nationals and the NHRA. I hope you do it. Thank you so much for coming on WFO Radio. Good luck, Big Daddy.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you, Don. Big Daddy Don Garlits going for a record in West Palm Beach, Florida this weekend. And yes, I know this is NHRA Nitro and this is not NHRA and it's not even on the same side of the country. And I'm telling you what, Big Daddy supersedes everything. 87-year-old Big Daddy Don Garlits going for a record. If he breaks 200 miles per hour, I'm telling you, it is going to be a huge deal, in my opinion. Now, electric dragsters, are they the future? They're not the future. Are they the future? I don't know. Is Ecopo the future? I don't know. That's not what it's about. It's about paying tribute to one of our greatest legends. One of our greatest single legends the sport has ever spawned, whose protege, Richard Hogan, is leading the Capco team to victory after victory after victory. And it's amazing how they have been tied in together. And to talk to Garlits about what he thought of the guys and the Capco guys and giving them a tour and the fun that they had and having gotten the chance to speak with Bobby Lagana and hear what it meant to him, just all ties together perfectly for me. Go Big Daddy. Break that number. Hope he goes like 205. It will be awesome. Big Daddy Don Garlits. And I can tell you that Garlits moves the needle, folks. Garlits moves the needle. In my South Florida community, we have two papers. We've got the Miami Herald, and we've got the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Sun Sentinel is basically Fort Lauderdale, Broward County. Miami Herald is Miami, but they're both available in both places. And Sun Sentinel had a story about Big Daddy, 87-year-old drag racing legend Don Garlits, going to attempt to set a record at Palm Beach. And it's happening on Saturday, and all my buddies, the bracket racing friends, the people that I raced up, Corey Kramer and Lee Neal and everybody that I know and love that help me out when I go race, they're all going. They're going. They want to be there. Big Daddy going to try to set a record, going to go out there, going to roll to the starting line. It's amazing. It's huge, and we're going to be racing, but I'm going to be connected, knowing that something historic may or may not happen coming out of Palm Beach. And I just have the world of respect for Garlits. Garlits has done so many things for our sport and really elevated it, thus winning that Lifetime Achievement Award last year at the National Hot Rod Association Awards Banquet. That was pretty tremendous. So Big Daddy going to be out there doing it. All right, when we come back, it's going to be Steve Matusek as we delve into Pro Stock, which is back, the Mellow Yellow Series. Matusek always wanted to run Pro Stock. He is a great Pro Mod racer. He's had great success running turbo cars for Elite, running blower cars for Danny Rowe. Now he's going to run a naturally aspirated 500 cubic inch Pro Stock for Elite Motorsports. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. What is he expecting? What does he want out of it? Why is he doing it? All of these things. We're going to hear from Steve Matusek. Also going to ask him about Pro Mod as well. That's all coming up. But right now I want to tell you about Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com. Marvin Rodak sent me some of the Scott Palmer Capco blend last week. I've been drinking it every day. It is awesome. Great caffeine, great taste, great crema. Awesome stuff. The Funny Car Chaos, fantastic. Just so many great blends of coffee roasted fresh per your order. You can get it ground or unground. I get it unground because I have a grinder. But maybe you don't have a grinder, and so you would need to get it ground. And then Marvin will roast it up. He'll grind it up. He'll send it out. GTO. It's awesome. But not only does he do coffee, hot sauces and spice rubs and tools for grilling, thermometers and grills. And if you are in the Fort Worth, Texas area, you're looking to buy a grill, you absolutely must go check out the showroom at RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. I have been there. Many of our listeners have been there. Bobby Graham has been there. We've all been out there checking it out when it comes to the Dallas race. When we're at the Fall Nationals, we usually hang at Rodax, at least for a little while. And Marvin is a wonderful person who's a drag racer. He likes to get his hands dirty. He likes to go out to Funny Car Chaos and turn wrenches. And a big supporter of WFO Radio. So if you like gourmet coffee, if you like gourmet hot sauces and spice rubs and all those wonderful things that make grilling great, give him a call. 817-924-6821. That is RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. We'll be back with Steve Matusek after this.
It ain't just wide open, it's WFO.
Hangstafers, metalworking lubricants. The folks at Hangstafers on board with big racers like Antron Brown and Lucas Oil Series, sportsman racers in the Racing RV's top dragster category. And their number one goal at Hangstafers is to increase the productivity in the shop. You got to go to the website and check them out. And so go to hangstafers.com to find out more information. We're happy to have them on board, happy to have them helping our WFO radio listeners in their shop. Hangstafers, metalworking lubricants, trying to make you a little more efficient in the shop.
Hey, this is Scott Palmer, driver of the NHRA Cat Spot Litter Top Fuel Dragster. Do you have a cat? Go to catspotlitter.com, order it today. All natural product, made out of coconuts, 100% biodegradable. All you NHRA fan, cat owners, support our team. Go to catspotlitter.com.
Drag Racing Edge. That's the magazine. Subscribe online. Get the issues, $24.95. Keep up with your favorite sport, whether it be NHRA Mellow Yellow, Lucas Oil Series action. They cover drag radial. They cover it all. Drag Racing Edge magazine. If you're looking for extra horsepower, check out WilsonManifolds.com, the leader in intake manifold and nitrous oxide development. They've set records and won championships in just about every series in professional racing. Sprint Cup, Nationwide, Camping World Truck Series, NHRA Pro Stock, right up to the Nitro classes. If you're looking for extra horsepower, check out the leader in intake and nitrous development at WilsonManifolds.com.
Hey, what's up, WFO Universe? It's Kathy Fisher. Join me along with Joe Castello every Sunday morning on Motor Trend for Performance TV. That's 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.
Now back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
NHRA Nitro podcast. We are back. We are now back. I really appreciate you guys as the listeners understanding this is a sponsored podcast and great people like samtech.edu supporting the show so that the next generation of machinists and engine mechanics and motorsport EFI tuners and all that CNC machinist can learn their trade, can find out a great place to do it. And endorsing products like this is a great honor for me because we do not just endorse anybody. You wouldn't believe that the people that have come through and they are, interested in being on board WFO, except it's not a product that is applicable for what we do. Folks at Samtech absolutely are, though, and you can start your education at full speed. Block, head, CNC programs, motorsport EFI tuning. They offer an Associate of Applied Science degree. They're military friendly. They're approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Do you know someone that is stuck in a rut, that's thinking what do I want to do with my life? Do I go to the cubicle? Do I push around the, the TPS reports? Do I have a boss over my head telling me what to do? Or do you pursue something that you genuinely love? That is up to you. And the folks at Samtech have got the tools to help you get there. The School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Go to the website and look around. That is number one. Maybe you're eligible for the GI Bill. Maybe you just want to get involved, like Travis, who told us on Factory Stock Podcast that he was a mechanic, but he wanted to get an education. He got an education, and now he works for David Barton. How great is that? And that's the whole point about it. you can choose your life. If you have something you're passionate about, and it's high-performance engine building, racing, or otherwise, Samtech can get you involved in the sport in a big-time way. 713-683-3817. Of course, those results are not guaranteed. It depends on how hard you work. Sam has been recognized as a school of excellence. You definitely want to check out the website, 713-683-3817. And when you call, just ask for Brian Massengill, right? Or tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. And if you haven't listened to Factory Stock Podcast, well, you really should, because Drew Skillman laid it out there on the line in the last episode. And if you are falling behind, you must catch up, because the next race is Indy. That is samtech.edu. All right, let's keep going. Joining us now, he'll be running Pro Stock for the Western Swing, but we know him. He's a Pro Mod guy, Steve Matusek. Steve, welcome to WFO Radio. I'm excited you're going to be running Mellow Yellow Pro Stock. I know you are as well. Tell me about it.
Hey, Joe. Great being on the show. You know, hearing my name related to Pro Stock just sounds kind of weird. You know, for all my years of running Comp Eliminator and Outlaw stuff and super category racing, and to have an opportunity to run one of those elite classes, and again, having my name aligned with Pro Stock, it's surreal, and I'm very excited about the opportunity. I'm very excited about getting in the car and being part of that car, and knowing that what I do in that car makes a difference between winning and losing.
To me, that is the most exciting aspect of it, and I don't like the Pro Mod versus Pro Stock concept that is out there among so many people, because frankly, I love them both and find them to be very different. And there's room and a place for both of them. I love that Erica has had the opportunity to experience both different cars. Now you are about to dive into that kind of from the other direction, having run Pro Modified cars, the blown cars for years, now the turbo car this year, running very well in Pro Modified. I am going to ask you about that in this interview. But now to go the other way, you're going slower. But Erica has always told me you're more busy in the cockpit. How many runs have you made, and how has it been so far?
2.5. 2.5. I had to make a moderate pass and then 2 full track passes in order to get my license to cross over to Pro Stock. So the first run I got in there and left on the starting line. And it's not that new to me, because I was in a Liberty clutch car years ago, and the only difference is that they had twin turbochargers on it. So I understood the concept. I understood the car. It's been a while since I've been in there, but these things are different animals. And we can expand on that in a little bit, but I was told by Lump, who's I think going to be my crew chief. I'm not even sure who's on my crew.
Wow, that's funny.
And they were talking about how these cars now just are different with that rev limiter in there, because they have a rev limit that is set into the car by mandated by NHRA. And the challenge is you have to hit the gear change within 100 RPMs of the rev limiter. But if you hit it too low, you're gonna knock the clutch out of it. So the driver is a much bigger part of the equation now than even when they were years ago, when they ran carbureted engines with no rev limiter, because you could miss the shift point on the high side and it didn't do anything. But if you miss it on the high side now, you hit the rev limiter and that hurts performance. So it takes a lot of precision. It's efficient. The word that comes to my mind also is perfection. These cars they're fast, they're aggressive, but you got to be on your game and you got to hit those shift points.
Very exciting to hear you say it like that. And that's when I am always trying to describe the difference between, a Pro Mod or a Pro Stock. From the tuning standpoint, you just don't ever have enough power in a Pro Stocker. But from a driver standpoint, the driver, not that it doesn't matter in these other classes, it absolutely matters. But there's more data points where the driver factors in, right? Leaving the starting line, there's one. And rowing those gears, hitting those shift points, getting down the racetrack. If you make a mistake at any point, you could lose the race. And the word perfection, I think, is an excellent word. Now, let's tell everybody the car you're going to be driving. A couple of months back, Richard Freeman breaks out this Mustang, and beautiful car. You have a turbocharged Mustang in Pro Mod, so you're like a Mustang guy all of a sudden. What's your connection to Ford? I got to know you running a Pro Mod Camaro, but you're all of a sudden like a blue oval guy.
Well, I mean, that's my roots. My dad worked at a Ford dealership. he ran Ford power plants forever. I mean, back in the 60s, I still have the invoice from a shotgun. I'm sorry, a camera motor that he bought direct from Ford, and he put that in a 32 Bantam, and then he put that in a front engine dragster, and then he ran FE stuff and wedge stuff for years. So I grew up with Fords. I licensed in a 70 Maverick. That was the first car I ever got in a drag car that has a 427 FE in it that I still have today. I used to run a shotgun engine in a roadster style Mustang when I started running super gas after the Maverick. I had my modular powered 5.4 liter twin turbocharged Ford Mustang that I ran in NMRA. Actually set the record in the last race that NMRA ever had for Pro 5.0 for ET and speed. Then they killed the class. And then I ran that car in NMCA and in Comp Illuminator and Double B Ultra turbocharged. So my roots were in Ford. My first Pro Mod car was a Mustang, twin turbocharged Mustang with the same power plant that Ford designed for Pro Stock. And we took that engine with Ross Yates, and they went ahead and assisted me in trying to convert that engine over for twin turbocharge on methanol. So really my first foray out of the Ford power plants was with Danny Rowe in that Camaro when I got together with him about 5 years ago and ran that Camaro and loved that car and loved the blower stuff. But having the opportunity to get back in a Mustang for me is it feels like coming home.
Which it makes you the perfect person to carry the banner, and I'm happy to hear you say that. I want to know your thoughts and opinion about Pro Stock in general. You mentioned that it's a premier category, and everybody thinks about Bob Glidden and Warren Johnson, Lee Shepard, Frank Iaconio, Bill Grumpy Jenkins, and just the history of Pro Stock. And the one element that has been missing in our modern era is the battle of manufacturers. The Ford fans have no one to root for, and the Dodge fans nowadays have no one to root for. Alan Johnson was pretty much the last of them. Alan Przinsky's trying to get it done, but now running the let's call it the spec engine, the DRCE, which has won out. We see in pretty much all of the other premier categories, the Hemi has dominated Nitro, and DRCE is what has dominated Pro Stock, and now you can run a DRCE in a Ford body, and it's okay. As a Ford guy, that's what you're going to be running. Make the case to the blue oval guys such as yourself that you're carrying the flag for them and that they should root for you.
Well, I don't know that I can make a good case for that. All I can tell you is this: when Richard pulled that car out and I saw it and he did well with it, that got me thinking. And if it would have been another Camaro, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So just seeing the Mustang out there, seeing that brand out there, the body lines of that car, the passion I have for that type of vehicle, that's what drew me to it. So let's face it. I mean, in the pro categories, in Pro Mod, Top Fuel Funny Car, now in Pro Stock, none of those engines are really brand specific. I mean, all of those engines are purpose built. So I guess we kind of have to get with the times and understand that, okay, it's not like the 60s or 70s or 80s where, you had Bob Glidden dominating with a real Ford with a, power plant that, had a serial number that you could buy the block or the cylinder heads direct from Ford Motor Company. That world doesn't exist anymore. I appreciate it. I love the fact that I came from there. I respect it. But those days are over, and now we have to, live with the times, and this is the only opportunity there is to have a so-called Mustang in the class, so I'm taking advantage of it.
Now, I don't know if you know, but I really do know if you know. But you made 2.5 runs, so you've had 3 reaction times, and I'm gonna put them out there for the audience. I hope you don't mind this, but this is your reaction times in your first 3 licensing runs: 009, 011, 026. That's pretty impressive, Steve.
That, all drivers take a great deal of pride in their ability to leave off the starting line and especially to leave with a clutch as opposed to a trans brake button. But these cars, again, when I used to run a Pro Mod car with a clutch, I mean, we'd have a triple 10.5 or triple 11 with 90 thousandths air gap. with a lot of bass in it that, you almost had to take 2 feet to push it in. And these things, I mean, it's I call it a baby clutch. I look at them and I laugh at them. They're like, I think 5.5-inch clutch, triple disc. You could push the clutch pedal in with your finger. The travel on it is probably 45 thousandths air gap. So, and that was one of the challenges I had when I first got in the car is I couldn't have a feel for the clutch because it was almost too easy to push in. So I do take a lot of pride in that. I was a little surprised that I was that good that early on, but then again, there was nobody in the other lane. We weren't qualifying. For me, when I get in a car, the more relaxed I am, the better I do. So it'll be interesting to see if I can maintain those types of reaction times in qualifying and in eliminations when somebody's in the other lane. Because, again, when you're just testing or going for your license and you're in the car by yourself, that's a whole different ballgame.
I think this is very exciting to watch you go through this process. Elite, obviously a premier team. You're going to be running the Mustang body, which is cool, makes it unique. Also, your first race is going to be up on the mountain. And I remember, you were one of the last guys to have the clutch in Pro Mod, fought it all the way. That's like real driver stuff, and it's, it's badass and it's cool. And you're back doing it here. But on the mountain, I hear that shifting is actually a great challenge because it is so different than everywhere else. I wonder if you're not going to have that problem and thus end up having a real shot at going out and winning the race. A very experienced racer with a very experienced team, catching everybody at a time where they're doing something that only happens once a year.
Well, what's interesting about that, and let me expand on that because I've been talking to the guys about that. Actually, in a pro stock car, things will happen much faster because they have to put so much more ratio in the car to get it to accelerate. So typically, the 1-2 gear change happens at like 1.1 to 1.2 seconds at sea level. At Denver, the 1-2 gear change is going to happen at like 0.8.
Wow.
So you're essentially pulling second gear at the tree. You let the clutch out, you're pulling second gear at the tree. So that's the thing that when I was talking to the team about, they said, okay, but we're all kind of excited because let's face it, I've got no bad habits. I've got no timing in me now. All I'm doing is reacting to a light. So I don't know that it's going to affect me because I don't have, an entire year of having to react at anywhere from 0.9 to 1.2 seconds. I'm going to have to react, to the light like I did in testing or in in licensing. So yeah, things are going to happen a lot quicker. But then they said, you go, and then the 2-3 shift, happens probably 6 or 7 tenths after the 1-2 shift. So the first couple shifts happen quickly. And if you miss them, that's ET. That's a lot of ET because you don't have the vehicle speed. The clutch, won't be where it needs to be in order to pull the car. Or if you hit it too early, you're going to separate the clutch. If you hit it too late, you're going to put it on the limiter. And it's a lot more critical down low because, again, that's when you're trying to get the car to accelerate. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that challenge. And again, you have to focus on staging shallow. You have to focus on cutting a light. You have to, see the guy in the other lane. Those are the things that I love about getting in this car because I've been one of the strongest advocates in Pro Mod. Hey, make everybody leave off a clutch, make everybody shift. Let's take the crew chiefs out of the equation and put the drivers back in the seat where they belong. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm going to see if I can still do it, and I'm really looking forward to that challenge.
Very exciting. Obviously, Aeromotive, your company on board, but Thermotech stepping up with you as well. It's good to see that you've got people supporting the endeavor.
Yeah, I've got a really good friend, Brian Pryor, that went to Thermotech, and he's the marketing manager over there. And we were just kind of kicking around what I was doing, and they wanted to get involved, and they got involved. And I've got VP Mattatives involved, Chris Wall, who I've known for quite some time, and we've worked with him on the Pro Mod side, and we've done some business-to-business type deals with them. They heard that we were getting involved in Pro Stock, and they wanted to get on board. So it's been I love the business-to-business aspect of not just industry-type activities, but also racing, where we can come in and show some of our peers an ROI in being involved with a race team. And I understand that. And I understand how, I have to figure out ways to make them have value in getting in these programs. because again, these are my peers. These aren't people that, I need to get certain amount of dollars from them to just go race. And I'm just looking, for that race or the next race or the race after. We are looking for relationships that are ongoing, that help them, that help us. So whenever I get involved with whether it be a distributor or manufacturer at a sponsorship level, we're very in tune with making sure that we give them good value, and it helps both of us, and it's a long-term relationship. So I'm very grateful that Chris Wallet at VP and that Brian Pryor at Thermatech see this as an opportunity, and they got on board, and we're looking, we're hoping to give them, an exponential return on this investment.
Is there a person or two that you are most excited about potentially staging up against?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'd like to see Erica in the final because let's face it, I've been around her now in Pro Mod, and I've known her for years. I raced her once in Super Gas years and years ago, and she cleaned my clock back then. So I didn't forget that, but I've seen her behind the wheel of that turbo car, and I saw how quickly she was able to grasp what that car did and the feedback that she gives to the crew chief. And she's the real deal. I mean, she is a race car driver, and she's the best. And in order to be the best, you have to beat the best. So I'd really love to square up against her in the final because I think it would be fun. And if we would come out on top, I would feel like I accomplished something because I have so much respect for her.
Wow, very cool. I agree. That would be awesome. There's so many out there. You're kind of carrying the banner for the Pro Mod guys also. I'm sure they're going to all be wanting you to go do well. Let's talk a little bit about Pro Mod while we've got you here on WFO Radio, in that I feel that the program has been advancing rapidly, and you've had, every race you've had, you've pretty much evolved and gotten better, and the car's gotten quicker, and then a rules change, which hit everybody. And I just kind of want your opinion. Next race is Indy. The turbo cars get a hit, the blower cars get a hit. Some people are definitely not happy about it. There is time between now and Indy to get going again. I don't know how you choose to look at it, whether that time is good or whether you're annoyed. But regardless, it seems like you and this turbo program with Elite is marching forward.
Yeah, we've really turned the corner here since Virginia. But the car, we've always felt like we had a good team with Justin Elks from Modern Racing and Shane Tecklenburg. We've had a great car, but we've had a lot of growing pains. We had a lot of problems that were outside the team. I mean, we broke the chassis testing in Houston. We had a lot of components coming loose, falling off the car at inopportune times. So now that as a team, we're learning what we need to keep an eye on. We fixed the car. Now we're letting the talent do what they do best. The car is really coming around. We don't have laps. So every time we go to a different track, we have to open up our data log book, and it's the first time we're seeing those conditions. So we're accumulating data as rapidly as we can, but we don't have any logs to fall back on when we run into certain conditions, and that hurts us a bit. Not complaining, it's just the reality of it. But it's a fast car. I got some very smart people working behind the scenes and working with me, and we're very excited until we heard about this rule change. And I'll just take a minute to give you some facts from my perspective on the rule change, because I've been around this a long time. I don't understand it. When they knocked the blower cars back to 14.5, the tuners have data. They have experience running those combinations at 14.5. When they used to run those combinations at 14.5, the nitrous cars and the blower cars were basically neck and neck. However, the nitrous cars back then didn't have lockups. They were running clutches, and the guys running automatics did not have lockups. So now turn the page 2 years later, they knocked the blower cars back to 14.5. They don't touch the nitrous cars. The nitrous cars still have their lockups. And the turbo stuff, the problem with the turbo stuff is we've never been here. We've never been at 33 pounds. We don't know the impact. Now, we don't know if we're going to have to spend a lot of money for camshafts, for stators, for converters, for ratios. this is unknown territory. So it's frustrating because our program, when you start to get some momentum and the car starts to make some progress, and by the way, when you look at the qualifying in Pro Mod, I think Chad Green's been in the top 5 in qualifying almost every race, if not every race. So why the big move? I don't understand it. The blower guys had an advantage because of air conditions, because atmosphere conditions, but you didn't hear any of the turbo guys complaining about that because there's an understanding that, hey, in certain altitudes, certain racetracks, one of the different power adders are going to have an advantage. But to really kick us in the gut and take 3 pounds away, which historically they've only ever taken 2 pounds away, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, and we're going to go test and we're going to try to figure out. But let's face it. I mean, I got in this Pro Stock car because it's a Mustang. It's already proven that it's a good car and it's a great team. And I feel like I have a chance to go out there, compete, and win. To me, it's not just, doing something that I've always wanted to do. It's just, when I go out there, I want to have a chance to win. If we go test and we feel like we're not competitive, we're going to park the car. I mean, and I hate to say that because we made so much progress, but I think one of quite a few teams that if we can't be competitive, I see the class going in the wrong direction, and it's unfortunate.
Wow, yes, that is very unfortunate to hear, and the first time I've heard that about E3 Spark Plugs Pro Modified, presented by J&A Services. And this is the challenge of the rules makers. I don't envy their job. It's very challenging. They make decisions with data that I don't necessarily always know exactly what it is or what motivates it. It sounds like in this case, nor do you. But I haven't heard anything like that in Pro Mod, unfortunately, in a while, since it's been running on the NHRA side as long as I've been here. Let's hope you will be competitive, and I feel like you will. In the end, that the racers seem to overcome whatever obstacle is put in their way.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, and again, on our team, and even on Proline's team, there has been a lot of carnage. We've hurt a lot of equipment trying to run fast at 36 pounds. And I know the NHRA techs are there, and they see that. And then you see a situation like one team that raced here recently that had an opportunity to win the race in Norwalk, ran the fastest mile an hour in the history of the class by a ton, and the guy never had the heads off, the cylinder heads off the engine. So it's like, well, wait a second. Who are they looking at? What are they looking at? When you have Stevie Fast, you have Ricky Smith going on record saying that they feel like they took too much away from the turbo cars. What does that mean? So if the guys that especially Stevie, he's gone on record how many times talking about turbo cars. If he's on record saying 3 pounds of boost is too much, what are the NHRA tech guys looking at? I don't know, but hey, again, I might be talking out of the wrong end of my body here, but we'll know when we test. We've never been there. Maybe it's not as bad as we think, but it seemed like an aggressive move, and I don't think that the data was there to support it.
Interesting. I appreciate you putting it out there, and it's a bit of a shame. We've got it in Factory Stock Showdown as well, another very exciting category. Bigger cars, heavier cars, they're slower, but aggressive parity rules changes coming down the pike. And I think at some point, we gotta slow that down because fans want to talk about racing and personalities and people and this one versus that one and why they like Steve Matusek over somebody else as opposed to how many pounds of boost, this combination, how much weight, what do they weigh, I think that people like to root for the people more so than discuss, parity rules. So hopefully they get it.
But here's the other side of the equation, and I do understand this. Think about the challenge, though, with Pro Mod, with the 3 different power adders and the different atmospheric conditions. I mean, at least with some of the other heads-up categories, they're all running the same type of a power adder. So those conditions will impact those types of combinations the same way. That's not the case with these 3 different power adders. So there is a huge challenge there, but at some level, sometimes you need to sit back, let the year, complete the year under all different track conditions, all different elevations that the NHRA circuit has to offer, and then make a decision based on that data, as opposed to, and I'm not saying it was a knee jerk, but I think that this was something that, they wanted to do in the beginning of the year, and they just, decided to pull the trigger now. And I just don't think that they had significant or sufficient data to make these types of decisions.
Well, we will see soon enough as you guys begin testing. The good news is we'll see you out there for the next 3 weeks out there on the Western Swing, Denver, Sonoma, Seattle, a very fun time of the year in the Mellow Yellow Series. Each one of those tracks has got great crowds and fun people. They're very destination-oriented, and so it's going to be fun to see you out there battling it out, doing your thing with Elite Motorsports in that Mustang. And I thank you for coming on WFO Radio. Get us all hyped up about it, Steve. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love Pro Stock. I love it all, really. But whenever we get a new personality kind of crossing into one of the categories, I think that's cool, and it shines a little additional spotlight on it. So thank you for doing it. I appreciate it. I can't wait to see how you do.
Well, I'm very excited because, Denver's been near and dear to my heart. My daughter won Western Conference Finals out there in 2006. I've never been to Sonoma or Seattle, so I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm very excited. I'm anxious to get out there, try something different, know that I have some input in the car, know that, I could do really well or we could do very poorly. And I think 50 to 60% of that falls on my shoulders. So let's face it, I have absolutely no pressure. I'm going out there to have fun, to experience something that's a little different. And I'm doing it for the love of the sport, the love of the class. So I'm just very excited to get out there and get in the seat and do our thing.
I agree. And if you got Lump, you're halfway home because that guy is an ace. I hope that works.
Well, Lump and Mark Ingersoll and the entire team with Richard there. I guess Richard's running a Camaro there as well, which yes. I just found out the other day.
Yes.
So I'll even have to compete against the boss, which should be interesting. Hopefully he gives me enough power to compete against him.
I love seeing Richard in the fire suit because he looks like a supervillain. He's this giant man, and he's got the goatee, bald head.
Yep.
He's a hysterical character out there. And characters, you're one of them. It's all about the characters and the people that make it fun and interesting. Steve, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Good luck this weekend. I'll see you in a couple of days, and I'm very eager to see how this all goes. I think you're going to do very well.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Thanks for the call, and looking forward to seeing you in a few days.
Steve Matusek with us here on WFO Radio Podcast. Greatly appreciate Steve coming on the show. Obviously very busy getting ready for 3 in a row Pro Stock, but I wanted to talk a little Pro Mod. I want to talk a little Pro Stock, and he is one of the great people to talk about the whole business of what's going down out there in motorsports. His Aeromotive is his business, his company. They have innovated so many different things in fuel delivery. Right? That's number one. But two, he has raced so many different things. He's had great success over the years. A total hands-on car guy. And so I am thrilled that he is going to be able to walk out of 3 races and have the Pro Stock experience under his belt. And we're going to know a lot more after it's all over. Could he win a race? I think he could win a race. I think he's got the talent and ability to win a race. And shifting and leaving with a clutch and getting after it and being on the tree. The reaction times, 009 to 011 and 026, he's ready. So I cannot wait to see what happens with Steve Matusek and this Pro Stocker, and I appreciate him coming on the show. All right, when we come back, it's going to be Randi Lyn Shipp and my time. I'm going to read some of your emails about the 1320, and I'm going to float an idea because everybody's doing it, so why shouldn't I? Right? That's what it's all about. Everybody is giving ideas. They should do this. They should do that. We should cut it. We should eliminate it. We should get rid of it. We should cut it back. We should pare it back. I'm going to give my idea, my big idea that I think, why not institute it? Why not, right? Everyone wants to put out an idea. I'm putting out an idea. We're all putting out ideas, baby. It's all happening. We're all putting out ideas. But right now I want to tell you about Hangstafers, metalworking lubricants at hangstafers.com. Here's the deal. Hangstafers manufactures highly refined petroleum, synthetic, and vegetable-based products, whatever your needs. They have the best available products to improve your metalworking processes. Hangstafers has more than 100 affiliates throughout the world. They've got a global network that's perfectly integrated with their research, development, and manufacturing facilities to offer you the best service available. They help you cut. They save your tools. You do a better job. Hangstafers across the board can help you in your factory or in your local machine shop. So check them out. They've been in business since 1937. 800-433-LUBE. That's 800-433-LUBE. And a big congratulations to Matt Sackman on another great victory with Hankstafers as the sponsor. Hankstafers, of course, been around since 1937. Matt Sackman, driving for Randy Meyer Racing, has won Chicago 2 years in a row. And that boy good. How about that? There you go. All right, when we come back, we're going to delve into my time. First up, going to be Randi Lyn Shipp, and then I'm going to read some of your emails and thoughts about the whole 1320 and then float some ideas. That is all coming up after this.
Everybody, listen carefully.
Now you listen to me. Why do you listen? WFO, you guys are number one.
Honest. Listen.
Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Whether you're a bracket racer who wants to get better or a thrill seeker looking to cross it off your bucket list, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School can put you on the right track. Don't believe me? Tell him, Frank.
No matter how little or how much experience you have, we've got a program for you. So if driving a dragster is on your bucket list, there's no better time than now. And if you'd like to be a pro, well, here's funny car champ, Jack Beckman.
Hey, this is Jack Beckman. Long before I was Fast Jack, I was a bracket racer who went to the Frank Hawley School. The time I spent there was some of the most exciting, intense, and fulfilling moments ever in a race car. I feel the curriculum Frank developed greatly helped me win not only the Super Comp, but also the NHRA Nitro Funny Car Championship. Frank put me on the right track. What are you waiting for?
Call them at 866-480-7223. That's 866-480-7223. Or visit frankhawley.com.
WFO Radio is brought to you in part by Extreme Velocity 3 Drag Racing. Download for your mobile device. Win your way on the show. WFO.
Hey, this is Joe Castello, and we'll be back to the show in a second. But first, I want to tell you about CompetitionPlus.com. There's a reason CompetitionPlus.com is the leader among drag racing electronic magazines. Their trained staff is always on alert and always asking the tough questions. The end result is hard-hitting drag racing journalism with up-to-the-minute reporting. For over a decade, CompetitionPlus.com has been a pioneer as drag racing's go-to source for the latest in news, race coverage, and high-quality photography. Their trained staff thrives on getting the inside stories, and their columnists study their topics before they hit their first keystroke. When it comes to covering the races, they leave you feeling as if you've actually been to the race. CompetitionPlus.com is an honest-to-goodness, free drag racing magazine published by the most passionate of drag racing fans, who just happen to be journalists. Don't wonder what's going on in the drag racing world. Be in the know daily. Log on to CompetitionPlus.com.
This is Sean from Traverse City, Michigan. You ever get done with an episode of Ignition or Nitro and say, man, that's a good job. I'd like to give them a pat on the back and a cold beer. Well, with Patreon, you can. So send that drink down to Gio and Joe.
Now, back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
Final segment, WFO Radio. If you make big power, Hussey Performance makes the gaskets. Go to husseyperformance.net, Hussey, performance.net, or call David Allen, 724-318-8292. Go to husseyperformance.net. If they don't already make them, they will make them. They'll custom make them because they know exactly how to do it. With over 40 years of experience in the copper industry, they know exactly how and where to purchase copper at the tightest tolerances, all the way to half a thou. Simple as that. They've got next day shipping. They want to get you to the track, and they're willing to do whatever it takes. They stock gaskets in increments of 1,000th of an inch, and if they don't stock it, they will make it. So whether it be a nitro-burning Hemi, or turbocharged Pro Mod, Honda engine, and tractor engine, they can make the gaskets. I know we've got engine builders out there that listen to WFO on a weekly basis. Thank you so much. Check out Hussey Performance. And when you call David Allen, you know he's the one that's going to answer, 724-318-8292. Tell him you heard about it on WFO Radio. All right, it is time for My Time. Final segment, NHRA Nitro, and we are getting ready for the Western Swing. And during this segment, My Time, we dive into all kinds of different things. And I have some interesting stuff planned that I want to delve into, some ideas and concepts for the future, just throwing out some ideas. But something has just happened, breaking news. And joining us on the phone line, we have Randi Lyn Shipp, who will be running Stock Eliminator out there. Also does a lot with Nitro Fish, and she's going to break some big news for us. Randi Lyn, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I am great. Are you excited about the Western Swing?
I am getting more excited every day.
Pro Stock is back. You will be running Stock Eliminator. That is always fun whenever you're out there. Get a chance to go out and get some wallies. And if I recall, last year you had a pretty good swing. Am I right about that?
I had a great swing. I went a lot of rounds. I didn't get a win out there, but I definitely won a lot of rounds, and I'm looking forward to going back and trying to get some revenge.
Final round in Sonoma, right? That's just off the top of my head. I kind of remember that.
Seattle, I was final round. Sonoma was semifinals.
Wow, you went a lot of rounds, so those tracks are favorable to you. And, of course, Pro Stock for the rest of the way, so that's very exciting.
Thank goodness, because we've had too many weeks off. It's gave us way too much free time.
What have you been doing?
We've been at some local bracket races around home. Bo has bought all kinds of stuff. Now we have a super gas car added to our fleet. And he's going to actually be racing super gas out in Sonoma and Seattle with the new stuff that he just bought. So when he has too much free time, he starts online shopping, you know?
I get it. I get it. But that is an interesting segue in that we're going to give our audience the opportunity at some shopping coming up. Now, everybody knows that Bo and Nitro Fish and you guys have really dived into the whole apparel and T-shirts and gear, and some of the coolest gear out there on the tour is available at the Nitro Fish trailer. Originally started by Kenny Koretsky back in the day, and you guys kind of bought into it. And you have found a real passion for this stuff. You have really loved doing the T-shirts and the gear.
Well, I'm a car girl, and I just like car girl T-shirts, you know, and sometimes it's hard to find just that simple car T-shirt to wear when you go to the car shows or the racetrack. So I've tried to bring a little bit of that back lately, and that's kind of how we developed our new shirt.
Absolutely, and that is the big news. WFO radio listeners have been asking me for a long time, like, when are the new shirts coming out? Where are the shirts? You got shirts like years ago. How come you don't have shirts? What's up with you? What's wrong with you, Joe? And they're right. They're absolutely correct. And the answer is I have enlisted the power and intelligence of this young lady, Randi Lyn Shipp, to get it done. And from what I understand, we have shirts beginning very soon. Tell us about it.
Yes, we have them. They're going to be delivered in Sonoma to us, and I think they're very cool. Bo thinks they're really awesome, so I think we'll sell a lot of them. People will like wearing them. They feature Joe in his Pontiac on there and, you know, show the whole WFO podcast so everybody can represent and support.
That's exactly what it's all about. And so where are they going to be able to get it? It's going to have a spot in the trailer. What if one of my listeners, WFOradio.com and podcast people, are out there now? Is there somewhere they're going to be able to go online? Like, let's say they're not going to Sonoma. I know some of them are. But let's say that they're out there and they, they're homebound and they can't get out. They want to wear a shirt. Is there a way to get them online as well?
Yes, we're going to put them on the NitroFishRacing.com website. And you'll be able to get them there. We're getting ready to switch over and have a newer, nicer website. But for the time being, they'll be on the NitroFishRacing.com website. And they can get on there, click on them, and we'll have one sent your way within a couple days.
Wow, that is so cool. And just looking at the artwork, I've shared it on our Facebook page. I've shared it in our Facebook group. It's kind of different. It's more of like an old school kind of look with the burnout and the injector and the zoomies, and it says wide open, and you can't really tell exactly what it's saying. 10 years. We got a lot going on there. I love it.
Yeah, I really like it, too. I like the old school look. I like the less amount of colors, the better, I think. And I think it represents everything you're trying to do at WFO.
I do, too. And most importantly, I appreciate you kind of shepherding along the process. It was not easy to create a shirt that represented what would be on it, what's cool, what would people like. The listeners, of course, of WFO Radio Podcast, they've been going for 10 years. Of course, they want to rock the T-shirt. What are they going to rock? And I think this is kind of cool. I feel like you could wear this anywhere.
Yeah, you don't have to be at a drag race. I mean, you can be going to your local car show at the Dog and Suds on Saturday night, and it fits right in.
Church, you could be going to church.
I think the car people are going to love it.
Sunday morning church services, you could wear this. Maybe not.
Absolutely. You're invited to wear anything you want at our Racers for Christ Church services.
So true, so true. I don't know. But Randi Lyn, I appreciate it, and I think it is great. And most importantly, it's, you rock the shirt, you promote the show, which is really what it's all about. And I think as I look at the artwork, an excellent job has been done to, convey the message. Like, this is a podcast that people can listen to. It's about drag racing. There's a guy who talks drag racing, talks to, like, stars of Stock Eliminator.
That's the best part of the show, right?
I think so. All right, so what do you have to do to your Firebird to get it ready for running up on the mountain?
There's a lot of people that like change converters, change rear gears, do a whole lot of stuff. And we have tried a lot of different things in the past. And in the past couple years, we have ended up, we just take it like it is, and it runs a little bit slower. But in stock, it doesn't really matter unless you have a heads up. As long as it's consistent, you can win. And even with it going a little bit slower than it would anywhere else, we don't, there's no other cars really that can run as fast as we can anyways there. So I say that, and I might be biting my tongue later in the week. I don't know. But usually, it works out. And if we were to have a heads up where somebody was close to us, we can still change those things. We have the manpower to get under there and do it.
There you go. It makes perfect sense. And right, if you have to run into a heads up and it matters, and it's like to go to the 2-for-1 to go to the final, you can change all those things. It's just going to take a little bit of work. Very, very cool. Hey, what kind of super gas car did Bo get? I'm kind of interested in, is it an open top roadster? Is it a Corvette like all the others? Is it unique? What is it?
He actually bought, Aaron Kennard decided that, his kids are only going to be young once, and he finished number 2 in Super Gas last year in the world. He's had a lot of success, but he didn't want to miss his kids growing up, and he decided he was going to sell everything. He couldn't just sell one, and Bo bought his whole operation. Some of it he's going to piece out and sell, and some of it, he wanted to keep for himself and run, and he's really likes that super class racing anyways, and he's kind of got his feet wet at the past couple events. He ran a car for Tyler Bohannon in Chicago and really enjoyed himself. So I think that kind of pushed him and got him really excited to get something else to run while he got the races.
The racer's racer, that is Bo Butner. How cool. And you as well, Randi Lyn. You never know. We might see you in that thing soon enough. Thank you for coming on WFO Radio Podcast, even just for a few minutes to get ready for the Western Swing and help announce to the WFO universe that we now have shirts available in the Nitro Fish trailer, and that hopefully our fans will go. Listen, my goal is to sell a couple at each race. That's all. Fans of WFO that go to the race, want to pick up a shirt, represent the podcast, wear it with pride. Now they know where to go, and I thank you for doing that.
Anytime.
All right. We will see you in a few days. You're going to be at the Golden Block Party, right? You're going to be out there and enjoying the music and the fun, correct?
We will. We'll be out there hanging out and probably going to Woody's Pizza afterwards.
There you go. All right. Well, I will see you at the block party, and we're going to have a good time out there on the Western Swing. Randi Lyn, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on WFO.
You're welcome. We'll see you there.
Randi Lyn Shipp with us here on WFO Radio. The WFO Radio T-shirts are now available, and I've put the link to the Nitro Fish store up on our Facebook page, and people are loving the design. I was very nervous about the design, honestly, but they are loving the design, and it is very, very cool, and I'm very happy that the WFO Universe has got shirts out there. Randi Lyn going for the wins out there on the swing. All right, it's the end of the show, and I wanted to drop a couple of just thoughts on everybody, and I'll try to be rapid about it. Okay, rapid about it. First of all, Brian Wagner had me on the Dragzine podcast last week, and I was really appreciative of it. I love being a guest on other people's show. I have things to say. I got points to make. And he just, he lobbed some softballs, and I made some points, one of which was about my thoughts about 1,320 feet. So, yes, WFO Radio listeners, I encourage you to listen to other podcasts, as I have with, all podcasts since we've been doing this for 10 years. And look, it's blown up. It's huge, podcasting. Everybody's doing a podcast. There's more podcasts than there are podcast listeners out there. But check out the Dragazine one, because I'm on there. Great stuff. I received some emails from some WFO Radio listeners about the quarter mile. discussion we had a week ago, and I wanted to read them, and here they are. Of course, you can always email me, joe@wforadio.com. I love hearing emails from people, and send one anytime. Joe, just got done listening to another awesome WFO radio show. Good, by the way. Just wanted to weigh in on the quarter-mile drag racing. I think you are spot on about the people that are complaining that NHRA is not running nitro cars quarter-mile. I really don't think there is that many to worry about. If they don't like the racing that is happening now, they have other issues they should consider talking to a psychologist about. I, myself, would rather see 1,000-foot racing we have now, where the cars are hitting the first eighth mile hard, going 0 to 280, and ending at the 1,000-foot at 330 in 3.6 or 3.7 second ET range. Then watch a detuned car run to the quarter mile in 4.4 second ET range with the same speed of 330 to 340, just my opinion. John goes on to say that he had a little struggles with NHRA.TV over the weekend. And all I can say, John, is this. They are working on it. They're constantly working on it. I am constantly hoping and working to make them better. Please always tweet at me, WFO Joe, when you're having problems, because I do forward it up. If it's audio problems or whatever the issues, I have about 10 people, Marvin Rodak and Race Guitar and my dad, who are constantly sending me updates on the NHRA.TV. And this year, from what they tell me, light years improvement on last year. And I know that they are always working hard to get better and better. So there you go. Thank you for your opinion, John. Next one from David. Good morning, Joe. Let me first start out with you have done great and continue to do great with your shows. Thank you very much. What was the cause of the Scott Coletta's crash? Question mark. What was something that was created? Automatic shutoffs, automatic chute openers when the body blows up, and the chassis have become much safer. When it comes to parts, they can limit the RPM as currently in place. The main requirement would be changing the clutch and gear setup. Okay, yes, that requires people to relearn and adjust, just the same way they did for 1,000-foot. But to say these tuners can't is saying they're incompetent. They absolutely can. For me, the fundamental change from going to 1,000-foot was the same as bringing the fence in baseball. I understood because technology wasn't at that level. Now we have done so many things for it to be safe to race to 1320, says David. When it comes to tracks that are too short, require a second parachute, which is already mandatory, by the way. Why is it at current speeds cars have only one chute? He references a couple cars, but they do. They have two. They don't always pop them both, but they have two. You could also race at tracks that don't have enough space to 1,000-foot, which is what they're considering, David. And so I appreciate what you're saying. Winning me over. Garlits winning me over. Not really. I think that what we have right now is the best show we've ever had. I get that the passing of the cars back and forth, Lewis Bloom said, the passing of the cars back and forth as the clutches come in. It isn't entertaining. If they could figure it out, if they could do it, I'd be interested in seeing it. But my prediction stands that once you made all the changes, and the first time the fans were expecting the nitro cars to hit, and they didn't hit as hard, you're going to have a firestorm of a PR nightmare. And they're all going to be all over Facebook. The same people that asked for 1320 and demanded it, the exact same people are going to tell you that they are not interested anymore. That's my prediction. I don't know. And speaking of predictions, there's been a lot of discussion about what should happen in the NHRA right now. And I will tell you, obviously they're open-minded right now about many, many things. They're open-minded about what's going on. And I love that. The ideas, kick them around. I got into it with Don O'Neill and Bobby Bennett on Facebook about they have an idea. Bobby just put out a story on Competition Plus. I suggest you read it about cutting back to 2 days. And there's been some rumors that may happen at certain places, a 2-day event, certainly worth trying. But I'm against it. I don't like the idea of cutting or reducing. I like the idea of growing and increasing. It's just a philosophy. I'm not ready to give up yet. I don't think we've done all we can to pack the house Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And also, the Friday crowds and the Saturday crowds, everywhere we go, are pretty good. You're going to forego one? You're going to get rid of one? Why? All the concessions, all the T-shirt sales. You assume that it's a totally different crowd. A lot of those people are coming back, that they'll be happy with only one qualifying day. I don't know. I don't think it's a great move. I think it's a little bit of waving the white flag. But okay, let's throw some ideas out on the table. I have an idea that I'll throw out on the table. And I just want reaction to my idea. Bobby writes columns. I have WFO. Here's my idea. Ready? It bugs me that we send people home. They bought the equipment. They showed up to race. They made a significant effort. They're trying the best of their ability. And we send them home. That might have been a good idea back in the day when we had 64 funny cars showing up or 30 funny cars and everybody and their brother had a funny car in their driveway and 2 plumbers and a carpenter could get together and campaign a Nitro car. And they were Nitro cars all over the region. And we only had 8 events and you had to call the herd somehow. And that has been our tradition. But if we're going to make a change, what is our big challenge, right? We don't have enough cars. We need more cars. We want to encourage more cars. How about some sort of qualifying race for the cars that can't qualify on elapsed time so that the 1 or 2 guys that are the odd men out who had their volunteer team come in and they flew them in and they paid the money and they bought their Nitro and they showed up and now they're losers and they just got to go home. They worked the sponsor. They had a tough weekend. The guy paid. Nope. And you burn him. You burn that sponsor. Yeah, sponsor, we didn't qualify and we just got sent home. Isn't now the time to figure out how to have a qualifying race so that the people that are at the bottom half of the field are at very least incentivized because they get to participate. They get to feel the thrill of competition. They get to say that they raced. They raced. Now, the numbers. NHRA has got a ladder for every number of cars that shows up. The 11-car ladder and the 13-car ladder and where the buy runs lie and all of that. I get it. We're trying to create more competitors. We're trying to incentivize more teams. Greg Carrillo is coming out this week. Greg Carrillo, maybe he'll qualify. Maybe he won't qualify. We don't know. How many cars? Is there going to be less? Is there going to be more? Wouldn't it be great if Greg Carrillo knew that when he showed up, he was going to race somehow? And if you've got 17 cars, 16 and 17 have to race for the final spot. Something like that. If you've got 20 cars, you can accommodate the 4 slowest cars. It's got to be a competition for those final spots. More competition, not less competition. More significant runs, not less significant runs. Well, it's very expensive to do that. Yes, it is, but it will be a meaningful run. You can't just sit out the final qualifying session. How terrible is it when someone pulls out of the final qualifying session because they're sitting on the 16th spot and they just decide to head back to the pits and we have to go through that whole speech about it's their right and they don't have to make all the runs and it's okay and they want to save money. Nobody wants to hear that. That's terrible. I get why they do it. But wouldn't it be good to come up with a way to eliminate that? Or no, you've got to race. You got to race. You got to race your way in. There's a qualifying race, like the bottom 4 cars. They race their way in. Whoever wins the race of the not qualified. There's a way to do it. Now, I haven't flushed it all out because I have found that that's pointless to flush out an idea to its final form when 10 other people have to weigh in on it. And so what do you think? Joe at WFOradio.com. That's my idea. Not decrease, increase. Not eliminate, incentivize. Not less, more. That's what I'm going for. And the teams like Terry Haddock and Audrey Worm and Lex June, yes, they'll have to do more racing. They'll have to spend more money. But at the same time, they will be gaining valuable experience in the heat of competition. They will be achieving significant milestones and moments. They will have raced their way into the show. That's great. That sounds like an awesome thing to talk about, as opposed to pulling out of line and qualifying is meaningless because there's fewer than 16 cars, or you're the 17th and 18th car and you get sent home and the sponsor that put money in your pocket to go is like, what happened? Nope, you didn't race. I'll never do that again. We'll never give somebody money again so that they can go and not race. You want to make test hits? You can make test hits. You got to race. So there's my idea. It's out there on the table for you. And what's the genesis of it? The genesis is, number one, you don't always have to follow tradition, just like Bobby said. The cutthroat nature of you must always qualify in NHRA drag racing, so much so that we've cut our own throat and made people stop doing it. And two, the 32-car field in the samtech.edu Factory Stock Showdown. I recommend you listen to Factory Stock Podcast. Listen to Factory Stock Podcast. Drew Skillman totally agrees with the 32-car field because these guys bought the cars. They're trying to compete. They deserve, quote, a chance to go out there and make something happen. How is that not applicable to Top Fuel as well? The reason they switched to a 32-car field in Factory Stock Showdown is because they don't want everybody getting discouraged at Indy. This is at Indy. By the way, you don't need grading points. You don't need anything. You just need a license. Do you have a Copo Camaro that you bought? You want to try to qualify for Indy? Show up. Contact Brian Massengill. He gives all the information on Factory Stock Podcast this last episode. How cool is that? You want to run Indy. And isn't that the point? Isn't that what we're trying to do? Incentivize. Knowing that you're not going to get sent home without anything, without racing. You maybe get a little money. You get to beat somebody. You get to compete against someone. You get to feel the burn of eliminations and what it means. That's my idea. There you go. What do you think? Joe at WFOradio.com. Want to remind everybody, follow all our social channels. The WFO T-shirts, Randi Lyn, Tim Snively, way to go. Bought the first one, Stock Eliminator Racer. Way to go, Tim. You the man, the judge. I appreciate it. And hope you like them. I think it's kind of cool. The design was, roughed out. My 78 Trans Am, but it's got to have a blower, even though we don't have a blower. It's not red either, but hopefully you like it and you get it and you rep it and enjoy. I will be out there on the Western Swing. 3 races. Denver, Sonoma, Seattle. Having a great time. Be at the block party. Be out there, doing whatever. We're going to do a lot of social media stuff. Matt Hartford in What Will Joe Do Next? I don't want to reveal what it is, but I'm intimidated. I should not be touching this. This is definitely a part that I should not be touching, and they're going to have me do stuff to it. So, interesting. Hopefully you follow NHRA social media and the shenanigans that go on out there. We try very hard to make sure everybody has a good time, behind the scenes and all that. Once again, I want to say congratulations to Matt Sackman and everybody who went out there and had a great weekend in the Lucas Oil Series ranks in between Mellow Yellow Series events. Western Swing, Brainerd, Indy, countdown. Just like that. Amazing stuff. Hey, big thanks to Big Daddy. Good luck, Big Daddy. Go out there and get it done. Big thanks to Alan Reinhart, Steve Matusek, Randi Lyn for coming on the show. We'll see you this weekend out there at the Mile High.
WFO! The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
I love WFO Radio.
Oh, yeah.